Ciao. Hello to everyone, guys. Hello to everyone.
Welcome to episode 2.
Yeah. I saw a lot of flags before in the previous live. Flags from everywhere. Amazing.
That's very cool.
It will be amazing to create. Thanks so much, my man. It could be amazing to do like some a meeting, a big meeting to with everyone. It could
Oh
be
yeah, that's
amazing.
cool.
Yeah, let's start talking about the previous one question about lenses. Hello, Martin. Martin Smith, the next one guest of the next Sunday with
Good.
Martin.
My general instinct is to stick to prime lenses instead of zoom lenses. And most of that just comes to a particular philosophy of filmmaking. Um, Earlier on in my career as a DP, um, zoom lenses were generally inferior to prime lenses. So there was an evolution of the development of lenses, during my career as a DP, where zooms became optically just as good as prime lenses, but that wasn't the case. So there's a outside the window there. There's a car that just parked in a massive sun that's hitting my eye. Look, see lighting. Look at that. I lost my train of thought. So there was a difference, but now zoom lenses have come up to that. But I still have this philosophy of working with primes and the family of primes and sort of the discipline of working with a 50 mil and a 40 mil and a 24 mil and a 75 mil and knowing
Yes,
these focal lengths and how to work with those frame sizes. And I happen to like that more. There are times when a zoom is much more beneficial logistically, if you're trying to move very quickly, if you are shooting run and gun handheld style, a compact zoom, if you're on a crane or you're on a car rig, where it takes a lot of time and a lot of logistics to swap lenses, then a zoom lens is a great tool for that. But for the most part, I'm still a primes guy. I still like that, and I still think that way. Um, yeah,
someone is asking what's a prime lens. Can you quickly
prime lens is
introduce?
a fixed focal length, so it has a fixed field of view. A zoom lens has a variable magnification and a variable field of view, where you can, get closer and get further away optically with the lens. With a prime lens, you have to physically move closer or physically change out to a different field of view or a different magnification.
You can find, guys, a lot of information on the Jay's website, also in the post of Jay's wall, and about the lens, especially. I remember the live with your mates project. You are working on an amazing project about lenses. I remember well. Do you
Yeah,
want to say something? I
sure.
think, I think it will be my next book.
Well, good. Okay, we got one sale going on. Yes, with Christopher Probst, ASC, he and I have been working on a book for 6 years now. That is a massive treatise on cine lenses. So there's a lot written about still lenses. There's a lot written about history of lenses. There's a lot written about optical design in general. But there is extremely limited texts out there on cinema style lenses. So we have spent a great deal of time. I feel like a lifetime, basically, writing a massive book called the Cine Lens Manual. Be about 1,000-page book that covers pretty much everything you could possibly want to know about cine lenses. And if there's something in there that you possibly want to know that we didn't put in there, I don't want to know about it.
There's a question, unusual question. Do you prefer film and or digital, and why? And why you choose to shoot on digital, for example?
I would have to say I prefer digital. And I prefer digital mostly for logistical reasons. So earlier on,
Especially especially in this case, you shoot it in a restricted time. I
Yeah,
think it's a huge advantage to shoot on digital.
absolutely. Restricted time and restricted budget. Um, so earlier in my career, when I was a cinematographer, I was a 35 millimeter snob. I only shot 35 millimeter film. That was it. There's no 16. There's none of this video crap, even though actually my first two features were video. I hated it. I was a total snob. And then a cinematographer by the name of David Mullen, who is an ASC member now, who was a friend of mine, invited me to a film that he shot called Jackpot that he shot on this new high definition camera. And they made a film print out of it, and I was blown away by it. It's like, oh my God, it's beautiful. What? This is video? This is crazy. And close to that time, one of the Star Trek TV shows, I don't remember which one it was, had switched to HD. And I wrote an article for American Cinematographer on that and had done a lot of research and found at the time shooting motion picture film, developing and transferring to videotape was about $75 per minute. Shooting high definition video and down-resing or transferring to standard definition to edit was $4 a minute. So there was a massive difference in prices. And that was pretty much where my career switched. I went out and got my next digital project, and I shot on that F900 camera that George Lucas did Attack of the Clones on, and David did Jackpot on. And I very quickly learned that technology and pretty much didn't look back. Very recently, I was asked to produce a feature film that they wanted to shoot 16 millimeter on. And it was a low budget film. It was $750,000. And I was pushing very hard not to do that because as I wrote the budget, I realized there was $120,000 just in the cost of film and developing film alone. That was it. So out of a $750,000 movie, $120,000 was gone just on the medium. And to me, that's too big of a liability. So at this day and age, with the cameras that we have to shoot digital cinema films, there is technically and aesthetically, in my opinion, no difference. I can make digital look exactly like film if I want to, or make it look a little different. Film, to me, is a nostalgic medium and an aesthetic choice. But I generally prefer to go digital. I don't know as though I would go back to film. I miss the smell of film. I miss the purr of the camera next to my ear. Oh man, that was nice. But other than that, no.
Yeah. There's a question about your movie again. You can read pinned, and I would love to show other images from your movies.
So the question is, on Before the Dawn, you mentioned that you shot locations that you had not seen or wrecked before. What was your DP's approach to lighting the location cold? And what was your process when you were a DP? I'm sure Katie would love to talk about this because it's always a challenge to walk in as you're shooting and discover the location for the first time in the morning. And we had some surprises on Before the Dawn. Some locations that were significantly smaller and configured in very odd ways that we never could have planned for. One of them was Jason's home. There were several scenes that were written around a kitchen table. It was a very small kitchen in the actual location. There was no table. There was no place to put a table. There was a weird counter with a hole into the living room. And so the approach is, again, the same thing for me that I approached everything on Before the Dawn, which is you show up at the location, you take it in. Whoa, okay, this is going to be a challenge. And then you bring the actors in and you put them in and you say, okay, let's work through this scene and see how it plays. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I like you sitting at the counter there. And then I can come over here and I can see both. Okay, let's do that. And that's kind of how we figure out where to go. And then once we figure out the blocking, Then it's Katie's job to light. And she figures out how she's going to light that. And we're figuring that out as we're, picking the individual shots. I'm going to shoot here, I'm going to shoot here, I'm going to shoot here. Then she says, okay, so if we're going here, here, and here, my key light can be here. I'll do it through the window here. And you figure it out as you go. And that was very much my approach as a cinematographer, too. You look at the blocking. You look at how the director's running the scene. And also you start in your head, and even practically, while they're getting up to speed and the director's talking to the actors, you start lighting the environment. You're looking at practicals, this one on or this one off, or opening drapes, closing drapes, seeing the natural light in the area, lighting the background a little bit, saying, okay, I'm going to put a practical back here. And then once you start to light that environment and the actors start to work within that world, you'll see. It'll come to you immediately like, oh, wow, you know what? They gravitate towards that practical on that desk table over there. So let's turn that on. That becomes a key light when he goes over and looks at the desk over there. Great. So that's how we're going to do that. Then, okay, when he moves over here, he's in kind of a dark hole. So we got to figure out, let's bring in a little bounce here. And you discover it very quickly as the actors run the scene. And on Before the Dawn, because, again, very few of these locations did we have a chance to scout ahead of time. It's all about going in the morning, and generally it's Katie and I first in on the set, sometimes even before the actors are there, and looking at that set and saying, oh my God, okay, this is going to be a challenge. All right, let's avoid, I don't ever want to see this wall. This is ugly, I don't want to see that. I like this, I like what's happening over here. Let's think about this area. Okay, yeah, she can bring in, light through the window. Okay, that's cool, let's do that. And then you start to kind of, figure it out as you go. That's the process.
There's other question about lenses choices, 50 millimeters, 85 millimeters, anamorphic. Let's talking about anamorphic.
Sure, I'm a big fan of anamorphic. What is anamorphic? So anamorphic was originally, well, not originally, but let's talk about the cinema applications of it. It was developed to create a widescreen image. Ooh, we'll do this on the same piece of 35 millimeter film that was used for standard movies. So instead of, there were a couple other systems that did wide movies, but they were three cameras interlinked and then three projectors in the theater, and it was very cumbersome. So anamorphic was a way to optically squeeze the image. And actually, here, we're going to do this. So this is an anamorphic lens element.
Yeah, that's great.
What it's doing is it's making me skinny and elongated, right? Because it's squeezing 2 times the visual horizontal space into the same square. And then it's projected through the same element, and that creates this long, widescreen movie frame. So that's why it was developed. And in the 1950s, when this was created for movies, or actually really adopted for movies, it was created before that, but we won't get into that. It developed a certain look and a certain style. And if you look back, especially the biggest blockbuster films that established my career, or not established my career, but what inspired my career in the 70s, they were all shot anamorphically. You look at Star Wars, Close Encounters, all of these movies, that Raiders of the Lost Ark, that influenced me as a kid, were shot with anamorphic lenses to create that widescreen epic movie. So it's a look, it's a style. You can create widescreen without anamorphic lenses, and that's a different look and a different feel. They add their own character and their own visual cues into the image. A little bit too much to get into in this particular conversation, but buy my book in a year.
Your favorite anamorphic?
I try to, I don't really have a favorite lens. It's kind of like picking a favorite child, because every lens is different for a job. I don't believe in any way, shape, or form that there's any bad lens. You know, there are some people, especially if you read the internet, that will say, "Oh, that's a crappy lens. You can't use that." Well, that's not true. That lens has a job and it has an application, and what you think is crappy, I might think is beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a quote at the beginning of the book from Bill Bennett, ASC, that says, "One man's doorstop is another man's Academy Award." And what he was referencing was there were lenses from the 1970s up until really the 2010s that were not used anymore because technology had progressed. They're older lenses, and we were getting more and more advanced. So they were literally doorstops and paperweights sitting at the rental houses. They're collecting dust. But suddenly in the digital world now, we have discovered the beauty of these old lenses and the style and the character that they bring to the image, and we're resurrecting all of this old glass. So one cinematographer's doorstop is another cinematographer's Oscar. There isn't anything bad out there. So that's a long-winded way of saying I don't really have a favorite. I thought for the longest time in anamorphic that kind of the pinnacle for me was the C-series Panavision anamorphic lens. But a recent blind lens test that Denis Lenoir, ASC, did with the AFC, the French Society of Cinematographers, and came out and presented to the ASC, I realized that the C-series was not my favorite in anamorphic. And in that sequence and in that scene that he showed in that particular test, I actually preferred the Hawk anamorphic lenses in that instance. But I don't have any particular favorite.
Okay. Another guy asking who is your favorite cinematographer and why, and I want to enlarge to what are your inspiration, your references, director, cinematographer?
Well, my favorite cinematographer by far is Conrad Hall, ASC. Connie, especially Searching for Bobby Fischer, is probably the one reference that I will always go to visually. I think what Conrad Hall did with that film is pure cinema magic. You follow that with Road to Perdition, and it's beyond inspirational to me. There's a lot of other cinematographers who I admire deeply, and I really love their work. Darius Kanji, Alan Davio, who I mentioned earlier, Vilmos Zsigmond, Janusz Kaminski, Greg Fraser is one who I'm a huge fan of his work and what he brings to things. So all of them have a different style and a different technique and something that is very inspiring. When it comes to directors, hands down, Steven Spielberg is the greatest influence on my style and my career, and probably my go-to for when I'm studying movies. But I'm also a big fan of Peter Weir and Danny Boyle, Alfred Hitchcock, Frank Capra to a certain degree. Yeah, I mean, there's probably far too many to mention it right now. Robert Zemeckis would fit into that list as well. All of those are great influences on me.
Yeah, there's some question again about how to light a night scene, how you light indoor scene in your movie, and let's talking about again about your movie, about the lighting of some scene, and I show you again.
You want to pull up a specific one? So that when we turn around and shoot that moment, that's natural sunlight. And we plan the entire day around that moment so that we can turn around and get that late afternoon natural sunlight, because we don't have light fixtures large enough to put outside the window, and we're second story in the school here. We don't have the tools to do that. So we got to work with nature. And Katie knew that she wanted that warmth going across the chalkboard, and we knew that at the right time of the afternoon that was going to happen. And we had about 30 minutes to get that shot and shoot that moment. Both, I think there's about 4 shots that we got at that moment. But again, it's just kind of walking in the location and seeing what it looks like and seeing what you can do naturally. and then working within that and scheduling the day around that. And sometimes that can be tough because it's like we're shooting this scene, but we're going to break away from that and we're going to get this now because this is the moment that we get to have this, and then we can finish and wrap that up. We had a very limited package on Before the Dawn, extremely limited. We had basically the equipment that I personally owned. There's an ARRI lighting kit and a KinoFlow kit. We had some loaned equipment from a company called BB&S, who gave us some LED fixtures on the show. And that was pretty much what we had, what Katie had to do the whole production with. So it was very, very limited. And a lot of it came down to, let's find the right spaces in each of these locations where the light is good, and then augment that as needed. And I think one of her favorite fixtures became this BB&S Lico. It's called a Force 5 fixture. That was an LED Lico that was really powerful. And she used that in a lot of instances for hot sunlight and edge lights. And I think that became one of her favorite tools.
My wife is fighting with the kid, no problem at all. I prepared a question about the biggest challenge. What about the biggest challenge also in the light? And we have also other question about characters.
Oh, wow. Probably one of the biggest challenges for me on Before the Dawn was the speed at which we had to do the production, and a very, very limited crew, very limited resources. So it's trying to maximize the limitations and not make them a liability, but make them your friend, and find a way to economize and simplify to just get to the heart of the story. I think lighting-wise, one of our biggest challenges was the romantic cliff scene, where they sort of first start to flirt with crossing the line, and we are literally in the middle of nowhere. We're actually wound up shooting it after a couple of problems of locations. We wound up shooting that on a movie ranch in Santa Clarita, on a cliffside with no power, and nights just trying to get the lights of the city in the background, little battery operated lights, and the Hudson water sprayers to get the rain, and that was logistically very, very difficult to get the wide two shot with the limited equipment that we had, to get the rain to cover the whole shot, to get the light to cover the rain enough, to still key and see the actors in the right feel in the right way. That was probably our, I think, Katie's, I mean, she would speak to that better, but I think that was probably her biggest challenge on it. Yeah, I think that answers it.
There's a quick question about your book again, the book about lenses with your mate Prosbit. When will be ready next year? Just a quick question.
We're hoping for the end of next year. So we are about 95% done writing this beast. And then within creating the images, about 3,000 different images and illustrations to go into the book. And the publishing window, we're imagining probably winter of 2021.
Okay, I'm scrapping another question. There's one pinned. How do you develop each of your characters? I think you can talk about this specific movie.
A lot of what I do in working with characters, and how I will always have a plan in my head for how that character should behave, what their desire is, what their goal is, how they're trying to achieve that goal. What does this character want to get? Jason wants to sleep with Lila. Okay, he's fallen for her. He's lustful. He wants to sleep with her. She, in this scene, does not. This is crossing the line. We're not doing this. So these characters have opposing desires. So when working with Jared, I have a particular thought in my head for how that character is going to behave and what they're going to do, and ways to guide that particular scene, knowing what this character is doing the entire film. And that's what the director has to do, is to keep the idea of what that character does the entire film, and how this scene falls in line with what happens prior and what happens after. So you got to have that big picture. And then let the actor do what they're going to do, and let them come into that rehearsal and do what they're going to do. And if they are way off base with the bigger picture, then it's my job to guide them and bring them in and say, okay, no. Instead of taking that approach, instead of just, direct, horny approach, let's take more of a subtle salesman approach into this moment. And I want you to sell her on the idea. So then I'm guiding that performance because I know where it has to go to the bigger aspect. But for the most part, I'm going to let the actor come in and bring their instincts and what they already feel that character is going to do in that moment, and watch them do that first and then guide them. As opposed to sitting down with Jared and saying, okay, in this scene, I want you to feel this. I think that's a mistake. I think it's wrong for me as a director to try to get a result from an actor. I don't ever want to tell an actor to feel mad or sad or scared. I want to get them to a place where that is their natural reaction to that particular moment. And in doing that, I might give them a direction of, instead of, I want you to feel scared here, it's, I want you to avoid him every way you can. Just avoid. And that simple word informs so much that the actor's going to do. The actor then might avoid eye contact and not look at the other person, and maybe, back away from them. And because now their instinct is on that verb, and that active verb, they're not thinking about, oh, what is it like to be scared? Oh, I need to be scared. Oh, I'm going to be frightened. No, they're thinking literally, I have to stay away from this person. That's my approach to each character and each moment, is let the actors follow their instinct and then find a way to guide that within the bigger picture.
Yeah, there's another one question about light. The big debate, LED, tungsten, and HMI.
Right.
Pros and cons in a quick way. Because we are receiving a lot of questions. I was pretty sure to have this kind of situation with you. And trying to select the...
Oh, thank you. Somebody just said I was awesome. I appreciate that. I see that rolling up on the screen. LED, tungsten, HMI, they're all great tools. They're all amazing. I don't have any personal, well, that's not true. My personal preference is tungsten. I love the look of incandescent light. That's where I think is the most natural color rendition. But I'm also not afraid or opposed to use LEDs or use HMIs. They're all great tools. And really, quite honestly, it comes down to, what do you have available to you, and what are you used to using? So for many jobs in my career, I lit them with a tungsten Airy set because that's what I owned. So that was the main tool that I used because that's what I had access to. And on Before the Dawn, that's exactly what we did. Every scene, it wasn't going in, okay, so for this scene, we need a sky panel and 6 10Ks, because we didn't have that. So it became, okay, for this scene, we want to get a nice edge light over here. Well, what do we have? Well, okay, I have this Area 48 fixture from BB&S, and I have the Kino over here, and I have, wow, I want a light back there. What do we have left? Oh, we got one of these little light panels, chroma lights. Okay, that's going to go up in the corner over there, and that's going to give me a feel there. So it really becomes a matter of, what do you have available to you? HMIs are fantastic tools to be very intense, very bright, representative of daylight look. LEDs are great for being portable, for being multicolored, for being low power, and being cool so they don't heat things up too much around the set. Tungsten is still my favorite for quality of light.
There's a question we also prepared. Being a DP yourself, how approach cinematography for Before the Dawn and even working with Katie. This time you worked as a director.
Yeah.
So
So there, carefully. I
how
think.
hard it was to stay
Yeah,
to
yeah.
stay.
I don't ever want to be somebody to dictate to somebody else how to do their job. So I don't go in and tell a cinematographer how to light a scene, or I'm probably a little more detailed about composition because as a director I have a very specific idea about how I want to compose an image. But I will let the cinematographer and camera operator be involved in that and the evolution of that look. But for the most part, when it comes to lighting, I'm going to let the DP know, and I'm going to let Katie know, this is what I would like in this scene. So, it's probably trying to keep shadow side of camera. Would love to get a soft, warm feel in this, and then it's up to her to interpret that and execute that. And then it's up to me to sit at the monitor and say, I need to see the eyes a little bit more in this, or we can go a little contrast here if you want to. How do you feel about doing this a little darker? Yeah, that's great. So the great thing about having been a cinematographer, and part of the reason why I have worked in every trade in the business, is I have a very specific vocabulary for every other job. So I can speak to a cinematographer in T-stops and lighting contrasts and color temperature and focal lengths, and I can speak in their language and work to refine the image to what I need from what they're doing in their language. And I can do the same thing with a production designer. I can speak in Pantone colors or hues or textures and flats or flyaways because I worked in construction and I worked in doing all of this. So it allows me to be able to talk to them in their own language. For the most part, I try to work with a DP and let them do their job. And then if we have to troubleshoot, if they get in the weeds, which always happens with everybody, I can step in and help based on my experience and be like, oh, okay, you know what? I see what you're doing with the window there. Can I suggest something? Okay, cool. If we just do this, you'll get the same look that you're doing a lot faster and easier. And in that case, it's just coming because I have a different set of experience than that particular DP does. So I can help guide things in that way, but for the most part, I don't want to dictate to them because the worst part for me as a creative individual, in any role, but let's just say specifically when I was a gaffer, the worst thing that a DP could do for me would be, I want a 2K here, put it on a stand, we're going to put a Chimera up on it with a quarter blue, and I want it to be this high over here and then back here. I want a 20, and I want to focus it in here and double it down so that I'm only getting a sheet on this edge over here, and then I want a Kino on the floor back over here. Well, okay, then what am I doing? I'm a trained monkey, right? I'm not bringing anything creative to this at all. I'm just executing what you want. And that's frustrating. Then I start to shut down creatively, and I'm not contributing to this. In the same tone, what I would like to do is say, hey, I'd like the key to be from here, and I want to get this intensity out of it, and I think maybe an edge, and I don't know, maybe glow something over here. And then creatively, they can say, okay, I'm going to do a 4K through a piece of muslin, and that's going to create a certain look out of here. And it allows them to creatively engage in the scene and elevate my plan and make it better. I still get to take the credit. It's my name. So having them creatively, impact that scene only makes all of us better.
Yeah, amazing. There's Martin that say hello to you, Jay.
Hi.
Thanks so much, Martin. And another one question about particular situation. You had different vision about the light. There's one question about this.
you, you mean if you get into a situation where you have a differing opinion
Yeah,
with the cinematographer? Really, that can happen with anybody on the set. Not just the cinematographer. It can happen with a production designer or an actor or anybody. I am going to listen to them and try to get the input. And basically, in most of those situations, I would be like, okay, look, I don't think that's the right way. That's not what I had in my mind. So sell me on it. Tell me why that idea is better. And if I don't agree with you that it's better, then we're going my way. And we're going my way because I'm the director. So at the end of the day, it is my choice and it is my responsibility. So it's my job to take everybody else's ideas and filter them and make the decision as to what's right for the production. Because the DP in a particular moment might only be looking at this moment. Okay, in this shot, oh, I really, really want to do this. But for me, I'm looking at the big picture and seeing the entire film in my head and knowing, you know what, we don't have to do that right here. Really, what's going to be better for us is to do this. So it's my job to take everybody's ideas and filter them. Katie and I never had a moment where we were like, butting heads on a particular approach to a scene. She would always have ideas that she would come to this particular scene with. I might have a way to refine that idea or polish it or just be like, yeah, great. So we never really, butt heads on that respect. And for the most part, there are very few times, because I choose the right people, I make sure to communicate the idea the best way that I can. It's very rare that I ever run up against me working with somebody where we have a really passionate disagreement on something. But sometimes that's great, and it can really bring out something new from it. And if they do sell me on their idea that it's better, then hell, I'm going with that. I'm going to take their idea. And I don't have any problem with that. It's not an ego thing, like it has to be my choice. It has to be my plan. Because if their idea is better than mine, again, it's my name going on this thing. I get the credit at the end of the day, so I'm going to take the better idea.
Okay. We have a raffle of questions collected from the stories also. I would love to hear by you for people that lost the inspiration in this period, that is not so much happy to stay creative, to keep going. What are your best recommendations in this moment? Many people lost a lot of work and is not in an old age to I don't know exactly in English, but to resist in this moment, to go forward in the best way.
We are all struggling in this moment, and aside from health concerns of friends and family and people that that may be directly affected by this, having the whole world shut down in this quarantine situation is very difficult. It's very difficult for creative individuals who are not able to work. So part of what I say in these times is that this is a great time to learn and explore and play. So watch and study films, experiment with new ideas, and it doesn't take an entire crew and an entire truck to start to experiment with coverage. Maybe take your iPhone and experiment with that. Just start playing with new ideas, maybe playing with lighting and experimenting with mirrors and saying, hey, what can I do lighting wise to bounce light, and how can I work with this, and just play. It's a great time to utilize the time to do that. Also read. Read everything you can. I'm going to be a little biased to American Cinematographer Magazine because I'm one of the editors, but pick up American Cinematographer. Pick up that book on filmmaking and get into that now when you have a little bit more time. I'm also deeply inspired by what Larry Sher is doing. Larry is an ASC DP who shot Joker. He was nominated for the Oscar for that. And right now at home, he is recreating shots from famous movies with himself or his wife or his kids in the frame and doing it at home. So he's taking these shots from E.T. or The Pianist or Hangover or other films, or I'm sorry, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, or Wizard of Oz, and recreating that exact frame at home with the props and regular household lighting, desk lamp and whatever he has. And that's really exciting to see because it's exercising those creative muscles, but it's also training you to think, to break down the lighting and composition and color and structure and props, and what is it that makes this frame from E.T. really special, and how do I recreate that? And it's a great exercise. It's very cool. So I recommend that as well. And if you're writing a book, this is a great time to be working on it.
Yeah, yeah. Feel free, Jay. I read some question collected, but feel free to tell about any aspects you wanna talking about your movie. I have other.
Well, I would say everybody go out and watch the movie and check it out. Before the Dawn is on a lot of platforms. It is on Tubi, which is a great platform that not a lot of people know about, Tubi, and it is completely free there. So it's tubi.tv, and there's a great app, and TVs have the app, and you can watch all sorts of TV and movies on there. It's also on Amazon. It's on Google Play. I wanted to get that one right, and YouTube Movies, and on the Roku platform. So it's kind of all over the place. No excuse. And in almost all of these places, it's free to watch. So check it out. You can see some of that work. And if you want to hit me here on Instagram, if you have any questions, I try to respond to pretty much
There's
everybody.
one guy asked us, where can I learn some DIT basics? The DIT, the new.
Wow, that's a really good question. I would say that to learn the DIT basics, you really need to learn the technology of the cameras, the technology of image workflow, and the technology of post color correction. So I would say, first of all, make sure that you've downloaded DaVinci Resolve, which is free, so you can understand color correction, you can understand image manipulation, and then get out and read and learn everything you can about the cameras. If you can get the manuals to all the cameras, which most of them are available online, learn about the Alexa and learn about the Venice and learn about the Red, so that you understand the functionalities of those cameras and you can troubleshoot and work with them. Also, there's great books out there like Digital Cinematography by David Stump that helps you understand. And of course, this guy Jay Holben wrote this book, Behind the Lens, which will help you understand more of the technology of Bayer pattern color filter arrays and digital compression algorithms, and how to process that image across the workflow. And then there's a lot of great forums. I would get on the Red user forum and on the cinematography mailing list online and speak to other professionals who are doing that job about what kind of gear you should have, what kind of monitors you should have, the best computer to get, and things of that nature. But to be a really good DIT, you need to know that image workflow and how to process that image and get the right image out to monitors and from set into editorial and post. So learn those workflows.
Tubi TV is not available in Europe, but I think you can watch from Amazon. I don't know.
Yes. There is an international
Amazon.
for Amazon. If you go to @Before the Dawn here on Instagram, I'm sure that there's information on where those international links are. But Amazon and Roku and YouTube Movies and Google Play all have it.
Yeah, there's another one question pinned. Do you take other filmmakers' reference to do rehearse with your actors?
Not really. I take other filmmakers' reference to speak to my technical crew, my director of photography, my production designer. I've never really done that with a sound mixer, but I suppose I could, and especially a composer. But I try not to bring other aspects into the actor's world. I don't want to bring them somebody else's performance to think about. I don't want to bring them, I certainly don't want to give them a line delivery and say it like this. What do you want from me? No, I don't want to do that. I want to help guide the actor into that performance by saying, try it judgmentally instead of accusationally. So, what do you want from me? Instead of, what do you want from me? You know, it's getting the actor to get to that performance in a more organic way. If I bring them a movie and they're suddenly watching Al Pacino say, "Harry, what do you want from me?" That's coloring their performance, and then they're just mimicking. So, no, I probably wouldn't do that. What I might do to an actor is say, "No, you know what? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that." I was going to say, I might say, take a look at this movie and the feel of this movie, but I don't think I've really ever done that with an actor. I do it visually with cinematographer. Katie and I watched several movies as references to like visual style. But I don't want to color an actor's performance in that way, and I don't want them mimicking somebody else.
Yeah, there's a question by Gao, the VFX supervisor of an amazing one shot, one take we shared a couple of days ago. I don't know if you watched in the feed. It was amazing.
No,
Like the 3 minutes of long take work with 120 people, if I remember well, involved in the work.
wow,
That's amazing. 500,000 of views
wow,
in
very
a
cool.
couple of days. Yeah, you have to see. So I think it's related this question. Do you prefer to edit a movie on set or in post? Because they did in one take, but I think it's a bit different.
Um, so this is a very interesting question relating back to Before the Dawn, because part of the mandate of Before the Dawn, so we started shooting in late August of 2017, and Alana had the goal. Really, no, it was a mandate. It wasn't a goal. It was a mandate that we were submitting the film to Sundance that year, which meant late September, if I remember right, or it might have been mid-September. So the only way to do that was to edit the film as we went along. So Asan Ali, who was our editor, was working parallel with the production every day. And he was getting dailies every day. We would literally deliver them to him at the end of the night, exhausted. And then he was cutting the scenes that we shot that day. And I would get dailies, but I never really had a chance to watch dailies. So every weekend, I had a chance to watch the movie being put together as we made it. And then 3 days after we wrapped the first 15 days of production, we had a full cut of the movie. And we spent another day sort of barely finessing that and putting a little bit of sound work into it. And then poof, that was submitted to Sundance. So that was an incredible process. And it was very cool for me on the weekends to see this thing cut in one day on the weekend. Actually, we only had 1 day weekends. We didn't have 2 days. But to see the scenes that we had shot that week come together and to sort of get a better picture of where we were going and how things were going. God, I loved that. That was cool. But then suddenly, 3 days after wrap, we have a cut of the movie. I realized I had no creative distance. I had no objectivity. I had no way to know what I was seeing was working. I had never experienced that before. So it was too fast for me. And people were asking me, "Hey, man, how did the movie come together? What do you think?" And I was like, I don't know. I really have no idea. I have no judgment of it. And it took some time in post to get a little objectivity and get a little distance to be able to then analyze it objectively and not subjectively and say, okay, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. And very fortunately, we did a test screening with a small audience of very carefully selected people who then spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours afterwards giving us all of their thoughts and reviews. And that informed how we went into reshoots and how I restructured the edit of the beginning of the film. And that really informed the way that the film came together. So I really loved during production, editing during the production, but I did not like it when we finished. It was too fast for me. I needed a little bit more time to kind of develop. Oh, and I see you pinned, Alana says, justwatch.com
Yeah,
will tell you
yeah.
where to see the movie, so thank you!
I want to show for the last time the trailer. if you want to add something, feel free to add. I think we are so close to the second hour of live, so.
I'm sure people are sick of hearing me babble. We should. This has been a lot of fun, though. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for everything that you're doing in Filmmakers World. It's a great resource, and it's always fun to watch all of the incredible behind-the-scenes stuff that you put up, and you've really built something very cool.
Thanks so much. We are so honored to have you today, Jay. Really, I don't have the right word, but we are really so honored. We remember so well you was one of the first contributor of this live Q&A. So we are so grateful of this. This gives us a lot of power to keep going. Also all the post collaboration we did on the platform. Thanks really so much. We are so grateful, Jay.
You've done great stuff. That's good. It's very cool.
And I think we talked about everything. I want to thank so much to everyone for watching. Thanks so much, guys. The comments are really many. I can't read every comment, but I want to thank guys so much for everything. And we will see soon. The live is live for 24 hours. We will upload in the YouTube channel in a couple of weeks. We are organizing the stuff there. Go watching the movie on Amazon. I think everyone has Amazon, and you can, let me check again the comment about the website. Can you remember the website where people can find the link where can watch the movie?
No. Yeah, the one that Alana put up there. No, I'm not.
Okay, pinned now. Pinned now. Justwatch.com. So you can see which platform can show you the movie. So thanks again, Jay. Thanks to everyone. Peace. Ciao.
Everybody stay safe.